hard.
it's not.
Listen.
No.
Try to calm down.
No.
Listen. Right now, we need to get you to the station. Try to calm down. Listen. Right now, we need to get you to the station. We need to get you to our police station. I can't let you in, man. We have to do our job.
So just in case you don't know who Dalia is, you must have been living under a true crime rock. I know this video just came out, but I had to watch it. She's been like popular in the true crime world ever since like what 2008, 2009, ever since that Cops episode when she tried to put a hit on her boyfriend and it backfired. They joked it, turned it on her, blah blah blah. But the scary part is though, her freaking acting. Like I don't care what nobody say, her acting on that scene. Hopefully Mrballen play a clip of it. Whatever, it's popular. You probably seen it already anyway. Either way it go, it's scary how freaking amazing it is. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is really kind of good. I'm not gonna lie to you. At one point I was thinking, I was like, you know what? Because it feels like she's kind of getting it, but she can't use it. I was like, at one point, she's gonna get out and really get that reality star shine that she wanted, whatever, for doing what she did. I'm trying not to use those words because I don't want YouTube to flag it. But either way it go, yo, go check out Police Prank Criminal on Camera. Yeah, I want to check out the original video. Link will be in the description below. But let's go.
In 2009, the popular true crime TV show Cops just happened to be in South Florida filming when a truly diabolical crime was committed there. And so cops captured this crime on camera. But someone in their footage was hiding something. And when you know what that something was, it becomes very obvious when you watch. But before we get into today's story, if you're a fan of the strange, dark, and mysterious delivered in story format, then you've come to the right place because that's all we do, and we upload once or twice every week. So if that's of interest to you, please ask the like button if you can borrow their car for the week, and then when they say yes, spend that week driving around picking up as much roadkill as possible and packing it into their trunk. Picking up as much roadkill as you possibly can and pack it into their back seat in their trunk and then return the car. Also, please subscribe to our channel and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of our weekly uploads. All right, let's get into today's story.
This girl.
Michael Dippolito grew up in a very rough neighborhood in South Philadelphia where violence, drugs, and prostitution were just normal parts of everyday life. At a young age, like his parents, Michael became an alcoholic. He also developed a very serious drug addiction that he paid for by selling drugs. Michael would eventually drop out of high school, and not long after that, he became homeless and was living out on the streets, sleeping in abandoned buildings at night to stay warm. In 1993, when Michael was still in South Philadelphia, he was arrested for the first time. He was charged with possession of an unknown drug as well as intent to distribute this unknown drug. Court records don't specify what drug this was. However, Michael just did not show up for court, and so a warrant was put out for his arrest. Michael would somehow manage to evade police capture, and by 1997, he had fled South Philly altogether and landed in South Florida in a town called Boca Raton. Shortly after arriving there, Michael was arrested for a second time, this time for offering an undercover police officer $15 in exchange for sex. Michael would plead guilty to soliciting prostitution, however, he would just get released. A year after the prostitution arrest,
I kind of like that we're going into him because usually the story is always about you know who. But what? I did not know that.
Prostitution, however, he would just get released. A year after the prostitution arrest, Michael was sued by a former girlfriend named Karen Tan, who claimed he was the father of her son, and so he owed her child support, and Karen had a DNA test that backed up this claim. However, Michael, again, would just not show up for court, and before long, Karen just gave up and dropped the lawsuit. Michael was likely very relieved when this happened, because at the time, he was making almost no money through a temp agency. And so after this lawsuit gets dropped, Michael decides, I need to go out and make some real money. And somehow, on his quest to find a more lucrative opportunity, Michael was introduced to associates of the Bonanno family. And the Bonanno family is one of the infamous 5 families that dominates organized crime across the United States. They are literally the Italian mafia. And after the mafia met Michael, they took a liking to him, and they did offer him a more lucrative, albeit illegal, opportunity. They gave him a role inside one of their so-called boiler rooms. A boiler room is not literally a boiler room. Instead, it's a group of fraudsters that use high-pressure sales tactics to steal money from unsuspecting victims. Typically, the way it works is the fraudster will cold call someone, and they will tell them that they have this great get-rich-quick scheme, but you gotta give me your money right now if you want to be a part of it. And so when the victim says, okay, that sounds great, and they wire the money along, the fraudster just steals their money. Michael, who was very charismatic and a natural salesman, got really good at tricking people into giving him their money. And so eventually, Michael realized...
Damn, like, imagine that's your job, dog. Like, they took our jobs. My bad, I was thinking South Park. But your job is legit calling, scamming people, like... I always wonder, like, when those people be calling me, they be trying to get money from me, like, hey, we're calling because you got a warrant out for your arrest or shit like this. They be making up stuff and trying to get you to pay them. Like, man, like, do you feel like, I be wondering, like, do they feel any type of guilt, like, when they actually get people? Like, man, probably don't. It's probably, they probably, like, got this motherfucker about to get another one. What the hell, dog?
Really good at tricking people into giving him their money. And so eventually, Michael realized he could make a lot more money if he started his own boiler room, where his commission could be much higher on the money he stole. And so fairly abruptly, he left the mafia's boiler room. We don't really know how they reacted to this.
Yeah,
and Michael would set up not 1, but 2 boiler room scams of his own in South Florida. And by 2002, he had pocketed $155,000 of stolen money. However, he had spent virtually all of it on fancy hotels and cars and phone sex. But the good times would not last for Michael, because in 2002, the police caught on to Michael's boiler room scams, and they raided them, and Michael was arrested for a 3rd time, except this time he would go to court, he would stand trial, and he would be sentenced to 2 years in prison, 28 years of probation, and he would be ordered to pay back the $155,000 that he stole. Michael would only serve 7 months of his 2-year jail sentence, but that was more than enough to leave a huge impact on him. Michael hated prison. He hated every second of it. And so during those long sleepless nights that he was laying awake in his cell, he made a promise to himself that when he got out, when he was released, he would never, ever come back. And so in 2003, when he was released, he immediately entered a sobriety program. He also started going to the gym every morning, and he began studying for his GED, which is a high school equivalency test because he didn't get his high school diploma. After he successfully earned his GED a couple of months later, he would also start a legal business. It was a digital marketing firm that was called Mad Money, Inc. Over the next several years...
See, now, like, from the cleaning on part and getting paid, like, legit part on... and then meeting Dalia, I know all that, but man, I didn't know all that about his backstory though. Like, what a freaking life, man.
It was a digital marketing firm that was called Mad Money, Inc. Over the next several years, Michael would do his very best to stay on the straight and narrow and not get in trouble, and for the most part, he did that. By 2008, Michael was still sober, despite a few setbacks, and he was still very focused on his physical fitness and his health, and his business, Mad Money, was doing quite well, earning him nearly $100,000 a year. But his love life had become a bit messy. Michael had gotten married back in 2007 to his longtime girlfriend named Maria Luongo, who had stood by him when he went to jail. But that year, in 2008, when Michael was 38 years old, he cheated on Maria with a 26-year-old real estate agent named Dalia Mohammed, who he met at a Starbucks. And instead of their affair being a quick fling, as they likely both intended it to,
I'm not gonna lie, bro. I'm not gonna lie, she bad. I ain't gonna lie to you.
And instead of their affair being a quick fling, as they likely both intended it to be, Michael and Dalia quickly fell in love. And when that happened, Michael went to his wife Maria and he told her, and then he divorced her. Just 3 days after the divorce finalized, Michael and Dalia went...
I mean, at least he had the balls to tell her, but what the hell, dog?
divorced her. Just 3 days after the divorce finalized, Michael and Dalia went to the courthouse and they got married. The newlyweds would move into a brand new condo that Michael had purchased for them in Boynton Beach, which is a beautiful town in South Florida. And for a time, their life was perfect. They knew it was a little outrageous the way they had met each other.
You gonna force me to buy a house on the beach? I ain't gonna get toxic until you shut up. You got me fucked up. I ain't gonna lie though, I couldn't marry no nigga who crossed over the Italian mafia. Hell no, the boy they show up at the door any day. Like that nigga over there, what the fuck? All right, go back. Stop playing though, for real.
Michael and Dalia went to the courthouse and they got married. The newlyweds would move into a brand new condo that Michael had purchased for them in Boynton Beach, which is a beautiful town in South Florida. And for a time, their life was perfect. They knew it was a little outrageous the way they had met each other and how quickly they had fallen for each other, but they didn't care. They got along great and they were excited about the future. But their perfect life would not last long. On the evening of March 12th, 2009, so only about a month after they had gotten married, Michael and Dalia were at home in their condo when they heard a knock on the front door. And so Michael went to the door, he opened it up, and much to his surprise, standing on the other side was his probation officer, and behind him was a whole bunch of police officers. And before Michael could even ask what was going on, the probation officer told Michael that they had received an anonymous call tipping them off that Michael was selling steroids and ecstasy pills and other drugs out of his condo. Michael would tell the probation officer that there was no way that was true. He is not selling any drugs, he's sober, he's not doing that. And so eventually Michael just stepped aside and said, please come in, search my condo, I have nothing to hide. And so sure enough, the police, they would go into his condo, they would search it, but they wouldn't find anything and they would leave. And so after the police had gone, Michael and Dalia found themselves just standing in their condo, completely dumbfounded. But instead of trying to get to the bottom of it right then and there about who had called and why, they just decided it was best for them to just leave their condo for the night and go stay at a nice hotel. And so they packed up some bags, they left their condo, which was a total mess from the police search, and they went to the hotel and they had a nice night together. The next morning, when they got up and headed down to the parking lot, they saw up ahead, standing around Michael's car, was Michael's probation officer as well as several other police officers. And so Michael and Dalia are looking at each other like, what is this again? And so they hustle on over to Michael's car, and before they can even plead their innocence to Michael's probation officer, he stops Michael and just says, look, we got another anonymous call, this time telling us that you are selling drugs out of your vehicle, and so we need to search it. And so Michael is just totally beside himself, but he says, look, go ahead, search it, there's nothing in the car. And so sure enough, the police would open up his car, they'd rip it apart, but again, they wouldn't find anything. Over the next couple of weeks, the only thing Michael and Dalia ever wanted to talk about was what the heck was going on. Who is placing these anonymous calls claiming that Michael was selling drugs out of the condo and out of the car? It just didn't add up. They wanted to believe that this was all just one big mistake, but in the back of both of their minds, they were thinking about Michael's very checkered past and his previous dealings with the mafia and with people he had clearly ripped off. And so maybe there was someone in his past that was looking to get back at Michael and maybe get him arrested and sent back to jail.
My bad, my food here. I ain't gonna lie, man. For me to already know the story, this is a hell of a good story, and not even just saying that, because I know when it comes to storytelling, I'm normally biased for Mr. Mrballen at this point now, because the storytelling is just hella freaking good. But man, I love the way how, and I think this was on purpose. So I think knowing him, I think this was intentional, because this story, like I said, is really popular. So a lot of people know this freaking story. So I was like, that's a good way to bring everybody in. Like, you know what? I'm a boom, bop him over the head. I'm gonna start it off by telling you about bro first. Then we work our way up. That's actually pretty genius. If that was the play, I don't know though. But go back. I forgot where I was at. My bad. I think it was like around a 10-minute mark. Hold up.
Fast forward to March 29th, so 17 days after that first raid on their condo, and that night, Michael and Dalia had been eating dinner at a restaurant, and when they left and headed out to the parking lot, once again, standing around Michael's car were several police officers clearly waiting for him to return. And so without even needing to ask why they were there, Michael and Dalia, they go over to them and they just start pleading with them to understand that this is a setup. We do not have drugs in this car. We don't know what's going on here. Please, you got to understand that someone's doing this to us. But this time, when they searched his car, they would find something. Before we go any further, I want to tell you about today's sponsor, Experian. Back when I was just a young buck in college, I was broke. And so naturally, I took out a credit card with a
It's about to get good. I will leave a link to all Mrballen sponsors in the description below, but it's about to go down.
PERIAN.com/Mrballen. Okay, back to the story.
I'm trying to get this long cord.
After searching Michael's car, the police would find a small bag of cocaine stuck inside of a cigarette carton tucked underneath his spare tire in the trunk. And when Michael saw them pull the cocaine out, he began to cry because he knew, even though it was not his and he had not put it there, that he was going to jail because he was going to get arrested for possession and he was on probation and he was screwed. And so he just begins crying and pleading with police to understand that the cocaine was not his. He swears it's not his. Meanwhile, Dalia, she's looking at the drugs and now she's second guessing herself. Is Michael lying? Is he actually selling drugs? And he's been lying to me too? But when she sees her husband crying hysterically and looking so sincere, she believes that he's got to be telling the truth. And so pretty soon she was standing beside Michael and pleading with police as well to let them go, that this was totally just a setup. And amazingly, these police officers who were aware of the previous raids on Michael and Dalia's property, they told them, look, we do think this is pretty suspicious that somebody keeps calling in about you selling drugs and now magically the drugs are in your car. And so what we're going to do is we're going to confiscate this cocaine. We're not going to arrest you. Instead, go home, be safe, call us if you see anything strange, you hear anything strange, and we're going to begin investigating to figure out who is making all of these calls. And so Michael and Dalia were totally relieved to hear this, but at the same time, they were kind of terrified because clearly whoever was looking to get Michael in trouble now was prepared to break into his property in order to do it. And so what was stopping them from breaking into their condo and planting drugs in there as well? And so after these police officers left, Michael and Dalia hopped in the car, they sped back to their condo and they went inside and they searched it top to bottom looking for any sign that anyone had recently been in there or if there were drugs or anything illegal inside of their condo. And after looking and finding nothing, they just locked their doors, shut their windows, shut the blinds, and just prayed that the police would be able to quickly identify who was doing this to them and make them stop. But over the next few months, the police would not figure out who this anonymous caller was because the caller stopped calling. And so for a little while, Michael and Dalia were convinced that the whole ordeal was over and done with, and they basically returned to their normal lives. But on August 5th, 2009, roughly 4 months after the cocaine was found in Michael's car, the anonymous caller would come back with a vengeance. All
right, so wait, this is the thing though that's really getting me. Knowing that backstory, it definitely taught me a lot, because imagine just growing up through your life and every decision you make, you're just making bad decision, back to back, right? I mean, you even cross over to the Italian mafia and you're still around, right? You finally get that hit on the ass where it's like, you know what? I need to change this shit. I can't live like this anymore. I didn't like prison. I don't want to do that. I'm gonna advance. I'm gonna elevate. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna get myself up mentally, physically, get my wealth up, all this good stuff, right? So it's like, yeah, now you're making a change. You're becoming a better person. I get it. I'm going to assume at this point, right? Maybe you were just not happy with your wife at the time. So I'm not gonna say, hey, you should have stayed and then made everything better, because for anyone, if you're just not happy, then yeah, you got to do what you have to do. I'm sorry. But I feel like the mistake was, all right, you're back on track. Things are good. But let's just say, all right, you got this money and you're done with your wife. I'm going to assume she was a good person. I'm just assuming like she was everything for you, but it's just we were growing bored of each other and I'm dealing with your ish back to back. So we're just hating each other anyway, because the whole time it's probably just a big fight. So then when you finally elevated, bossed up, another bad decision was made. Because like, now I'm going to kick you to the curb and then go with this young thing because, hey, I just know she loves me so freaking much for who I am, even though she knows nothing about me, but I probably have something that she wants, whatever. Because this is selfish as hell. I'm gonna let the story finish, and I could be wrong. Like I said, it could have been really bad with that wife at the time. Maybe it was just, or a girl, whatever it was. Regardless, maybe it was just really bad. It was like, you know what? I was trying to get out this anyway. I just needed to wait to get my money right. That could have been the case as well. But like I said, I was just assuming. But I don't know, man. It's like making all those bad decisions to finally get on track. It did mistakenly. Well, the other ones, they were, I don't know, mistakenly. Dang it! I made another bad decision. Bad decision. But this one almost cost me my.
Was found in Michael's car, the anonymous caller would come back with a vengeance. On that morning at around 5:45 a.m., Dalia left the condo, leaving Michael in bed, and she headed out to the local gym to get a workout in. Around 6:30 in the morning, she stepped off the treadmill and she looked at her phone and she saw she had a missed call from a number she didn't recognize, and this number had left her a voicemail. And so she calls her voicemail, she puts it to her ear, and as she's listening, her heart starts to race because it was a Boynton Beach detective telling her there had been some sort of incident at her condo and she needed to come back right away. Terrified, Dalia grabbed her things and she ran out of the gym, she got in her car, and she called this number back. And when the detective picked up, she tried to get more information from him about what this incident was, what happened. And the detective would only say that it involved her husband, and he would explain everything when she came back. And so in a total state of shock, Dalia turned on her car and she sped out of the parking lot and she headed back towards her condo. And when she turned onto her street and saw her condo, she hit the brakes and just stared. In front of her condo were all these police cars with their lights on, and police officers were walking around, and yellow crime scene tape was lining the outside of her property. And inside of the taped off area, there were all these crime scene photographers taking pictures of her condo. And so as Dalia is sitting in her car at the top of the street, just staring at this crazy scene she's seeing, one of the Boynton Beach police officers sees her and walks up, and after confirming that she was Dalia Dippolito, he said to her, leave your car here and come with me. And so Dalia, who knows obviously something bad has happened but really doesn't know the extent of it, she puts her car in park, she gets out, and she begins walking with this police officer over towards this cluster of 3 people that are standing right in front of her property. And it would turn out one of them was the detective who had called her on the phone. And so Dalia's led over, and that detective, as soon as he sees Dalia, he walks over to her and he says to her very matter-of-factly that someone had called about a disturbance in their condo, and shots were fired, and unfortunately her husband, Michael, was dead. Dalia, who was totally hysterical, was gently led away from her condo into a nearby police car, and they would drive her to the police station where they would sit her down and begin asking her questions about her husband. And they would say to her, look, I know you just found this out, but we gotta figure out what could have happened because a killer is on the loose. We need to find this person and stop them. And so at first, the conversation was really just Dalia crying and the detective kind of calming her down. But eventually, she would tell the detective about the anonymous caller who kept calling the police and claiming Michael was selling drugs, and how she and Michael suspected that, probably the anonymous caller was connected to someone from his past, maybe someone from the mafia, or maybe one of the victims of his boiler room scam, or it could be any number of other people that Michael had done wrong in the past. And so the detective, he's taking diligent notes and he's listening to Dalia, and then at some point in a break in the conversation, he says to Dalia, okay, it's time to get serious. I need to know if you know this guy. And so Dalia, she was kind of looking down and she looks up, confused what he's talking about, and then the door opens and
He said, all right, dog, stop playing so much for real.
looking down and she looks up, confused what he's talking about, and then the door opens and this huge guy in handcuffs walks into the room.
Come here. Bring this guy in here.
It's a ghost.
Get over here. Get over here. You know who this guy is?
No,
You've never seen him before.
I've never seen him before. Ever.
Do you know her?
Put your head up and look at her.
Put your head up.
I've never seen him.
What were you doing coming out of her house? Get him out of here.
It would turn out Dalia was lying. She did know who that guy was. Almost immediately after marrying Michael 6 months earlier.
Okay, just in case if you watch this video and you don't know the story, yes, I told you, I do know the story. I explained it pretty clear at the beginning. So if you see me just doing stuff, just being sarcastic, I don't want you to think like, but I thought you knew the story. Look, just being sarcastic, okay? That's it. Sorry, that's it. Just playing, bro. It's a joke. I'm just playing, bro. Stop playing, though. This case is so freaking crazy, man.
What were you doing coming out of her house? Get him out of here.
It's legit like a reality TV show, true crime. Like, legit. Oh, gosh. As you watch it, you're just like, oh, this is so fake. This is so fake. But it's like, no, this really happened, but it's so I can't explain it. It really, this is one of those cases, if you like actually watch this one, whatever, go down, read it, whatever, you're gonna get to a point where you feel like, yo, is this for real or is this like reality TV? Like dog.
Get him out of here.
It would turn out Dalia was lying. She did know who that guy was. Almost immediately after marrying Michael 6 months earlier, she had stolen $200,000 from him, but apparently that wasn't enough for her. She needed the rest of Michael's money as well as his condo. And so she had been the anonymous caller. She was the one calling the police and tipping them off that Michael was selling drugs out of the condo and out of his car. She was the one who planted the cocaine in the back of his car because she wanted him to get arrested because he was on probation and he would go back to jail for a really long time. But when her efforts failed and Michael did not get arrested and so did not go back to jail, Dalia moved on to Plan B. She reached out to one of her ex-boyfriends and she asked him, hey, do you know any hitmen that could murder my husband? And the ex-boyfriend at first didn't think she was serious, but when she kept asking him about it and began offering to pay and really was making it clear that she wasn't joking around, the ex-boyfriend basically told her, no, I don't know any hitmen. And then he, the ex-boyfriend, called the Boynton Beach Police Department and told them about Dalia and her plan to hire a hitman to kill Michael. And so when the Boynton Beach Police Department found out about this plot, they immediately had one of their undercover agents pose as a hitman and set up a meeting with Dalia. And so the undercover agent was that huge guy in handcuffs that was led into the room with Dalia. And so Dalia goes to meet the undercover agent, the fake hitman. She gets into his car and there's a hidden camera in the back seat that's filming her the whole time. And she's caught on camera saying she wants to kill her husband. She gives money to the undercover agent, and then as she's about to get out, the agent turns to her and he says, are you sure you want to do this? Because as soon as you leave, it's done. I am going to kill Michael and you can't stop it. This is Dalia's reaction.
There's no changing, no, there's no, like, I'm determined already. I'm positive, like, 5,000% sure, like, no, when I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. Like, as soon as you told me, listen, I need the money from you, I went, I grabbed it right away, like, we were good to go. Like, with me, you're not going to have a problem, you're not going to have an issue.
And so the Boynton Beach Police Department, they have all this information about what Dalia thinks is going to happen, and they decide they can use this information to set her up in the most elaborate way possible. And it just so happened the very popular true crime TV show, Cops, was filming in the area. And so the Boynton...
And that's enough. That's one of the other things that really kind of gives it that extra edge of the... You just get that freaking reality TV feel because, yeah, it just happened to be on Cops, whatever. But, oh my gosh, it's such a weird case. It's one part they haven't mentioned yet. I'm going to wait till it gets to the end. If they'll mention it and I'll talk about it, but...
popular true crime TV show, Cops, was filming in the area. And so the Boynton Beach Police Department allowed Cops to be a part of this elaborate setup. So they got to film everything that happened. So on the morning of August 5th, Dalia got up and left her condo at 5:45 a.m. and headed to the gym, knowing, at least in her mind, that the hitman would be coming to her condo right after her, breaking in and shooting her husband twice in the head, because that was the plan they had come up with.
Gosh, you just said the entire time you just driving to the gym, probably listening to your damn music, probably riding. You would think if you had any type of empathy in there, you would. No, psychopaths usually don't. Either way it go, you would think it'd be silent because you'd be thinking like, oh my god, this effed up ish I'm about to do, or for a freaking dollar bill. And of course you need this place, whatever. So you're at the gym pretending working out. Oh my gosh, I just really wonder how that workout went. But serious, and the entire time you're just working out, I'm wondering if you just thinking like, oh, okay, at this moment it's probably happening, or it's gonna happen now. Oh my gosh, it's really happening. And then you would get to the point where what was like the illusory effect. I can't talk today. The illusory effect. I forgot what it was called. Basically, you kind of get to a point where you kind of keep telling yourself something over and over and over and over to the point where you would get to believe in it. So you start telling yourself like, yo, okay, it was part of his past. It was because all the people he crossed over. It wasn't me, or blah blah blah. And you will get to the point you will start believing those lies yourself. Like, shit gets really sick in people's head, man. Look, let's let it finish. It's at the end of the video anyway. Oh my gosh.
So they got to film everything that happened. So on the morning of August 5th, Dalia got up and left her condo at 5:45 a.m. and headed to the gym, knowing, at least in her mind, that the hitman would be coming to her condo right after her, breaking in and shooting her husband twice in the head, because that was the plan they had come up with that was captured on film. And so after the police see her leave at 5:45 a.m., because they were monitoring the condo, they rushed in, they knocked on the door, and they got Michael to come downstairs. And he had no idea his wife was trying to kill him. And so he comes to the door, he's totally confused, but he goes with them and he's kind of ushered off to the police station. And then for about the next hour, the police set up a very convincing fake crime scene right out front of the condo. And then once it was all set up, that detective called Dalia and left her a voicemail saying that, you know, there's been this incident, you need to come back to your condo. And then a couple of minutes later, when Dalia called them back and said, okay, I'm coming back to the condo now, that's when the TV crews for the Cops TV show, they kind of set up in the bushes and got ready to film what happened next. Saying that, you know, there's been this incident, you need to come back to your condo. And then a couple of minutes later, when Dalia called them back and said, okay, I'm coming back to the condo now, that's when the TV crews for the Cops TV show, they kind of set up in the bushes and got ready to film what happened next.
And action.
Listen, we had a report of a disturbance at your house, and there were shots fired. Is your husband Michael? Okay, I'm sorry to tell you, ma'am, he's been killed. He's been killed, man. I'm sorry. Listen.
No.
Try to calm down. Listen. Right now, what we need to get you to the station. We need to get you to.
Look at the freaking hand. I was like, she is legit shaking. I was like, this shit is scary. Even though it's like me when I watch Martin. I watch it over, even though I saw it like a billion times. It's still, I'm laughing at it the entire time. Every time I watch this for the first time, I'm like, yo, the chills. What the hell, dog? All right, my bad. Go back. All right. And action.
TV show, they kind of set up in the bushes and got ready to film what happened next.
Listen, we had a report of a disturbance at your house, and there were shots fired. Is your husband Michael? Okay, I'm sorry to tell you, ma'am, he's been killed. He's been killed, man. I'm sorry. Listen. No. Try to calm down. Listen. Right now, what we need to get you to the station.
Oh, this is something new. Did you hear her voice tremble? That shit is so hard to fake. Unless I'm tripping. I might be looking too hard.
He's been killed, man. I'm sorry. Listen.
No.
Try to calm down. Listen. Right now, what we need to get you to the station. Try to calm down. Listen, right now, we need to get you to the station. We need to get you to our police station. I can't let you stand, man. We have to do our job.
After the fake hitman was pulled out of the interrogation room after Dalia had said, oh, I don't know who he is, the detective just stared at her in total silence for a minute. And then he broke the news that he totally knew all about her murder plot and that she was going to jail.
Oh, this is the part of the thing. Like you about to say, fuck you, look at that.
You're going to jail today for solicitation of murder. You're under arrest.
Niggas look at me for like 5 minutes just to tell me that. Just here staring at me just to tell me I'm going to jail. Like, what the fuck?
You're going to jail today for solicitation of murder. You're under arrest. That's an undercover police officer. Everything has been recorded. You were photographed in the convertible when you sat in his car in the front of CVS. What do you want to do? What do you want to do here,
I didn't do
Dalia?
anything.
Listen to
I
me.
didn't do anything.
You're going
I
to
didn't
jail.
do anything, please. I didn't do anything.
Tell me you didn't do anything.
I didn't do anything.
You're going to jail today. As soon as I'm done,
Oh my God.
they're going to come in here and handcuff you and take you to the Palm Beach County Jail, book you for solicitation of first-degree murder on your husband. Your husband is well and alive.
Thank God.
Oh, yeah, thank God.
Can I see him?
No, he doesn't
please?
want to see you.
I so wanted to see him.
He doesn't want to see you.
Please.
After Dalia was arrested, she was still sitting in that interrogation.
That part get me every time. That motherfucker said, "Thank God." He said, "Yeah, thank God."
Thank God.
Please. Can I see him?
No, he doesn't
please?
want to see you.
I so wanted to see him.
He doesn't want to see you.
Please.
After Dalia was arrested, she was still sitting in that interrogation room when the Boynton Beach Police Department made a special point of walking Dalia's husband, Michael,
This department's
past
wild.
the open door so she could see him. Here's her reaction.
Oh my God.
He's alive.
Thought you was dead,
Come
nigga.
here, please. Come here. Mike, come here. Come here, please. Come here.
Can't fix it.
Why not? I didn't do anything
I
to
heard
you.
you.
Mike, come here, please. Come here.
Okay. Like, we'll take her back to booking, please.
Dalia was initially sentenced to 20 years in prison for what she had done, but after a retrial because of jury bias,
Hung
her
jury.
sentence was reduced to 16 years. So that's going to do it. If you got something out of today's episode and
I can't lie though, that was actually great storytelling, and I love the way how he put it in the form. Let's say if you didn't know what was going on in the story, then you would feel like, yo, this couple is really in trouble. Like, we got to find out what's going on here, who's legit trying to get them. And then of course with the title, you'd be thinking like, man, I know this is not the prank the police is trying to do, right? But no, it was actually a prank on you know what. Now they basically were pranking Dalia to let her know, like, look, we already got all this freaking fake stage murder scene, all that good stuff. Like, oh my gosh, they went all the way out, and it makes sense because it was 4 cops, whatever. But there's a couple of things I did want to talk about. The first thing I did want to talk about though, you know what's crazy to me? They didn't go over his, like, the actual trial or anything because it was just a story. But the actual trial, it got really sick because her defense was legit trying to blame it on him, to a point where it was almost believable there as well, because they basically were saying he was in on it. They were trying to make it seem like, yo, we were trying to get picked up by reality TV, which is freaking scary. Now, luckily, the way they defended themselves, it was like, yeah, come on, this is just BS. He even threw it off real quick and simple. We're like, look, we're not here about me. Like, I'm the one that was almost freaking murdered here, whatever. So, but then it goes a little deeper into how much this almost could have still backfired on Michael. Like, oh my gosh, because of his past. Now, the seeds you plant, this is why I love the butterfly effect. This is why I always talk about, like, the things you do, like those seeds you plant. If you're planting bad ones, dog, and you're leaving this messy paper trail behind, when it is time to, when something does go down where it's time like, yo, you need help, you need to be saved, that's when the whole play, the sheep who cried wolf, the wolf who cried sheep, whatever the quote is, I don't know, whatever it is, that's when that kicks into play though, because it's like, wait a minute, but you did this, did that, because it's so many ways. If she would have gotten away with this without that hitman being recorded, it's so many ways she could have got away with this because of his messy past. I get it. Whenever people tell them the story, especially when they want you to understand, like, yo, this person really is this person, whether it being good or bad, they'll really paint that picture for you. And the picture we got from his, and it's not really hard to see the image because it's like, yo, you actually did this shit and it's on file for everything, and the people you're connected to, and then I wouldn't say crossover because we don't know what fully happened with the whole mafia situation. It probably was something like he just branched off. Who knows, whatever. But either way it goes though. So from his past, like you could tell, like, yeah, this could have easily been blamed on him, and she tried to do that as well a few times. But it all comes down to that freaking recording of the actual interrogation, the actual her doing the hitman scene in the car. You actually have to watch that the full thing wasn't here, whatever. Which if you did want to get more into it though, you could check the link below, description below, whatever, so you can check out the true crime videos. But either way it go though, like I was like, this is legit. This could have went even more scarier, and the acting could have went even on more and more. Because I'm not gonna lie, if it was, let's say if that hitman video was not out, whatever, right? Maybe you wouldn't, who knows? But if that video never happened, he never told whatever, he actually went along with the job or something else, blah, blah, whatever. And then we saw like how she put that scene on when she came up to them, like, oh my God, I can't believe this. We saw that, and then we knew his past. This could have easily been one of those true crime cases where it's like, yo, half the world's like, no, this person's guilty. Half the world's like, no, this person's innocent. And I hate getting those ones because those are the ones where it's like, gosh, you just want to know what's going on. And only the person who's alive from that scene, from that accident, knows what's really going on. Like, man, it can get scary in so many ways, yo. But either way it go, I'm about to go wrap up the video here. If you all enjoyed the video, go ahead and click that like button. I appreciate it. I'm trying to talk a little slower. I know I talk fast when I get excited. Can't help it, dog. But yeah, I'm out.